Hey, welcome everybody. Brother Goodwin here. We've got an exciting program for you today. The last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, we did a show called What Happened in 2023. And then if you recall, if you watched last week's, we did a show called What's Coming in 2024. I hope you saw that one. And listen, this week, we're going to take a little twist. We're going to share with you what we believe, what we want to do in 2024. In other words, what's coming with Prophecy in the Spotlight in the coming year. We're going to share a little bit about that, and some of it's speculation, obviously, but we're going to try to share with you, our viewers, what our goals and desires and plans are for this coming year. Stand by. Hey, welcome everybody. Prophecy in the Spotlight here. I'm Brother Dan Goodwin, your host. Dr. Charles Hilton is with us today, our co-host. Doc, let me just read one verse here in Daniel, very familiar verse here, if I can find it. I just had it. Talks about, time. All through Daniel, talks about time. And go thy way, Daniel, for thy words are closed and sealed till the time of the end. Sealed the book, he says in chapter 12, verse 4. Even to the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, knowledge shall be increased. Time is all we have, Doc.
That's all we have, and I don't know about you, but when I go to the register, a lot of times I say, get ready to pay for something. I said, we got a lot more time to have money, but I'm not sure I have much of either.
Yeah, so here we are. I believe this is our first show of 2024.
Yes.
I believe this is the first airing of a show in the year 2024. I'll tell you what, there were times I didn't think we were going to get here, Don.
Yep.
I mean, there were some dates in 2023 that sure looked like it fit like a glove. And by the way, that's not date setting. I have days every year that I find.
If you're not really fully looking for it, you wouldn't be trying to figure it out.
I mean, I have so many pieces of the puzzle, the 25-20
Sure.
days, and we understand how the 7 feasts are intertwined. And there's just, every year I find dates that sure look like a good day for the rapture. Now that's not date setting. That's just speculating and studying and looking.
Well, every morning I get up, I think last night would have been a good night, But yeah.
But we got several shows planned, at least up here in my noggin, and I'm sure you got some
I've
stuff.
got some things I want us to accomplish.
I want us real soon, Doc, and we touched on it in one of our shows, and I said we're going to do a show on that. We're going to talk about the different categories of prophecy.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. For instance, there's some prophecy that's about the world around us. It has nothing to do with us. It's about the conditions. 2 Timothy 3 fits the bill for that.
Yeah.
In the last days, perilous times shall come. That's mainly talking about the world around us. There's prophecies about the church and and Israel. We're going to try to give some categories and some scriptures and help the viewers with that. But here we are. It's now 2024, and I'll tell you what, 2030 is looking awful good. For possibly the middle of tribulation. We're going to talk about that in a later show.
Be a good show.
So these are some things coming. We're going to talk about the Great Reset. We're going to talk about the World
It's really
Economic
coming
Forum.
down the line, isn't it?
Yeah, it has to. We're
We know it
32,
does.
34
Yep.
trillion dollars in debt. And there's stuff that's going to come due that they're not even including in that. Unfunded liabilities.
But to make that reset, you got to reset a whole lot of things besides finances.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's coming, and we're going to talk about the 2030 agenda, because that is really starting to take the forefront on things, and we got to pay attention to that. We got to realize that 2030 thing is a big deal, and it's almost like it's bigger than man himself. Like there's somebody else
Well, we know
overshadowing
somebody,
that.
we know who's orchestrating all of this.
Yeah.
It's the one who's been running the world since Adam gave it,
Yeah.
control over.
And he's trying to bring in that one world system, because that's the only way you can control the world, is to have a one world leader, one world system. You got to be able to cut off the financial system. And by the way, we're headed digital faster than anybody wants to talk about. And
Everything
all you got to
is.
do is look at the truckers in Canada when they drove to their capital.
Everything
They
is
shut their banks
going
off, shut their
digital.
credit cards off.
It is.
Yeah.
And my pastor's son was talking Wednesday night about some data that he had picked up, the attention span of what's happened in the last 10 years. The attention span is just going like this. And it's all because of digital media, live streaming.
Yeah.
All of that is changing.
Hey, do you remember the earthquake? Remember the fire in Hawaii?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Nobody talked about that.
There's so many controversial things
Oh.
with that you couldn't begin to talk about it.
No, yeah.
And we'll never get the answers. That's gone from the
You know,
news.
it's kind of like a booklet I wrote on the Great White Throne Judgment of God. There'll be a time coming when all of that will have an
The
answer.
books will be open.
Everybody will. Nothing will be hidden in those days.
Yep. And men will answer for their sins.
Yes.
And be cast into the lake of fire.
And it will accumulate more and more, the greater the judgment because of it.
Yeah. Well, folks, we made it all the way through 2023 as a ministry here. As most of you know, we are viewer supported. We are dependent upon the gifts of God's people who watch our programs, either here on CTN or VTN in Arkansas on Saturdays, and CTN is Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time in most places. And we're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel that gets a lot of people watch there. And it is God's people who pay to keep us on the air. And seems like, Doc, we just make it every quarter. We just make it. And we also have been on pray.com for 2 months now. It could be that this is our last one. I'm not sure. We signed up to do 2 months just to see what happened. We wanted to reach the audience at pray.com, and I believe we've reached some people. And I believe there are thousands of people that saw us. And now they have the opportunity to follow us over here on television or YouTube,
But
or
it's
even...
it's just so much expense.
It is.
Dan, that we just had to make a decision. Are we going to drop the TV that we know has an audience that we're really ministering to,
Yeah.
or are we going to drop that and go this other route that we're not really seeing what I would call the results that we would need
Yeah.
to see to try to find a way to get all
Yeah,
that funding?
because pray.com or any ministry that we take on that costs money, it has to pay for itself.
It has
by
to.
by the
Yeah.
gifts of God's people. And pray.com's a different.
It's a different thing,
setup.
and it's a worldwide thing. But again, it's one of those niches that's meeting that mindset of a
I
different
think
world.
people
than
watch on
our
their phone
program.
and then they move on. And
Yes.
I don't think they feel the need to be a partner financially
Most
with
people
you.
are only looking for a short 8 or 10 minutes maximum. They're not looking for a 30-minute program in those kind of formats.
But we have we're glad we went on, and we knew
Yes.
we knew when we went on that we probably wouldn't be able to stay long. It would depend on finances,
Yes.
and so we're very glad that we went on.
Now,
And
if somebody wants to send us whatever it is, $10,000 for another, how much is it?
we spent $11,000 for 2 months.
That's what I'm saying. People don't understand how expensive programming is.
Yeah, and CTN is just as expensive as well, but we've got a network that covers that, and we raised some money, and that's why we went on print. We raised some money up front.
And we are thankful for and more people
Yeah.
took our challenge than we even thought would.
And I
we're thankful for it.
believe it was worthwhile. I believe there are a lot of people that watch us on pray.com that next week or whenever we're off there, they're going to, hey, where's that program? I've been watching this for several weeks. Where'd they go? And I think then they'll say, well, I'll go find them. They'll Google us and so we're hoping that some of the thousands that watched us over there will follow us and come join us here on YouTube or
We don't know are the 25 or 30,000 people that watch that program, is it just people that looked at it for a second and then just went on? We don't know.
you know. But there were, I mean, I looked yesterday, this morning, there were 24,000 people watching.
Yeah.
So there's a crowd there, and that's what we wanted to tap into.
And we are ministry, and we're not looking, but it takes funds in our world today to have ministry.
And I know I say this all the time, Doc and I get no salary here. We get no money. All the money that comes in goes to keeping us afloat out here.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. That
Yeah.
we didn't get in this to make money.
We did to start it. We don't, and we're not going to ever get into that.
No. So let's move on, Doc. Let's share our hearts here. But right before we do that, she'll put that up for you. I've got, I think it's an 8-book set. I think one of the books is not in the picture she's going to put up, but I just threw a bunch of them together. I'm going to offer a deal on these are my little booklets. Most of them are 30 to 40 pages. The Redemption book's bigger. It's 80 pages, but I threw that in the pile as well. We're going to give you a package deal on that. And I think you're going to like it. Go to the website, ProshinaSpotlight.com, click on my bookstore, or in fact, we'll have this on the front page of the Spotlight page. You'll be able to click right from there. And I want you to get, these are what, a lot of what I'm doing now is these little booklets. They're easy to read. They're right on point, right on target. Henry VIII right there, I love that book. And just good stuff here that'll help you. These little books, Doc, you can read them in an hour.
Yeah, they'll take no time.
Yeah.
We started writing booklets about 2 years ago or something, and because you can just take a single subject and without getting running rabbit trails, and you can be very helpful to people.
You get a 300 or 400 page book, it's intimidating for people.
Yeah.
They don't think they can
in
read
our
it.
world today, the greater majority would never pick it up.
Well, let me start with that. That's on my list for what we plan to do, and I know Doc is as well, but I plan on continuing to do more of these booklets. And and I know, Doc, I was just talking to you in the office. You got a couple
I'm
printing
working on
right now.
one right now.
And we're going to continue to put out some material that we believe will help God's people out there. And I've got another book that I'm working on. I can't tell the audience the title. I've told a few people the title, and a few people I've told, but I believe I'm going to start on it in this January. I'm going to begin what I believe is going to be my best and most important book. I wish I could share the title, but you can't do that because someone will steal that title before you get it registered. And but I'll tell you what, I have got a book that's been in my head and moved into my heart for 6 months or more, and it's going to be awesome. And I can't wait for them to hear about it.
But that's how it works. To us, it's like putting a message together for a church or an occasion. And that's the way my books have always been. I just felt like this is something I want to make sure I get to the audience. Yeah.
I'm actually praying and hoping that maybe a publisher will come my way, a real publisher that pays for everything. If not, I'll do like I always do. We'll print it ourselves. It'll be first class. It'll be professional. But I'd sure love for this book to be my crown jewel and somebody pick it up and get it in the bookstores. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things on my list, Doc, is that I plan to continue writing this year and using this ministry to propagate it and get it out there, and not for money, but because we want to influence people.
And give the information to folks.
And the printed page is so important. I mean, our Bible is print.
Absolutely still is.
And we've got to have good material.
We say printed page, but we realize in our world today that printed page sometimes is digital, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. And so another one is, and I think we already said this, we are going to continue with CTN.
Yeah.
I know we have been floating out some questionnaires and asking folks if they want us to stay on. And overwhelmingly, Doc, people want us to stay on CTN.
I get comments from folks, not every day, nothing like what you get, but you're the host here, and you carry
the phone number goes to our place.
You carry all the lion's share of all of this. I just get to show up and participate. I've provided a building, and sometimes I do give you an idea or two what I think we need to cover, but you carry the lion's share, especially the responsibility financially.
But we're a team. God has chosen you to be here And you know, if the Lord takes you home before me, it's going to be sad because you're a big part of this.
I enjoy what we're doing, and I think we make a good team. Somebody's got to have the brains around here.
Well, yeah, I was getting to that.
Amen. No, I enjoy it, but I'm making some changes in my ministry.
Yeah. And we're also going to stay with VTN in Arkansas for those of you that watch on Saturdays at 2:30 in the afternoon Central. Memphis, Little Rock, all throughout Arkansas and some of Missouri there, we are staying with them.
I think we have a pretty good following there.
I think we do, yeah.
I get book sales and things from what I know comes from that area. Has to be.
Yeah, and we are leaving. I think this is I think I already said we are leaving Pray.com as. I think this might be the last week, but don't take me for sure on that. It could be that there's one more week coming. I'm not sure. So, and we thank Pray.com. The people were good to us. They gave us a discount, gave us a bonus spot. They did everything to make us feel comfortable and welcome. And but we told them when we started that it was probably going to be temporary unless some big money came in, and that could still happen. Yeah. I mean, I could get a big donation tonight, and somebody say, "Hey, I want you to stay on VTN. Here's some money," and we'll stay on Pray.com if that happens. Yeah. I think I said VTN. I meant Pray.com. So we went on there for a purpose. We wanted to tap into their audience and try to gain some of them to watch our shows, and I think we did that. Now, the only way to stay on there is somebody's got to foot the bill. Somebody's got to. It's like $6,000 a month to be on there. I'm just being blunt with you. Yeah. And
well, I'd like for to see us even find another station or two like VTN.
Yeah. And they're out there.
And it's not quite as expensive, and
we were on PTL
more
for
realistic
a while,
for us.
and I wouldn't mind trying PTL again. We were on there for several months, and for whatever reason, we decided to get off, and it
probably
wasn't
financial.
Yeah,
we had to make a decision.
We just didn't have a lot of feedback to know who was listening on PTL. It's something we might ought to try again, because it isn't about money, it isn't about fame, it's about getting on the airways and getting our message out there.
That's it.
And I say this in all humility, and I know you do too, Doc. There's no prophecy ministry like this one.
I don't think so. I really don't think so. There's some good people out there, and then there's some folks that I think need a little further teaching personally.
Most of the prophecy world has gone into the sci-fi.
Yes, they have. And
very sad.
It is sad, and what I do understand, and you probably get it too, but I get communication through email usually, and it's obvious to read and see that the greater majority of our people are not just watching us, they're watching a lot of those others as well.
Yeah.
And this is where they come to get almost opposite understanding of some of that. There's no place else that I don't think that's going to address the situations that's being taught in a different light than we would. I think we're the only ones that have that answer from this side.
I got a call on the way here. In fact, we were 10 minutes out. We were in, what's the town where the restaurant is?
El Dorado?
Yeah. We were coming through El Dorado and the phone rang. I didn't know if it was spam, and I get a lot of spam calls. But it was Michigan. I answered it, and it was a gentleman. We talked all the way here, and then I stayed outside and talked to him a little bit longer. He's a viewer up in Michigan. He doesn't watch us on television. He watches on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And he's got some of my books. I told him a couple that he ought to get. And he was asking me questions. Great guy. Mm-hmm. And he said, "What do you think of so-and-so?" I said, "Well, he's a good guy." I said, "You got to be careful. He believes in the Nephilim." He said, "Oh, yeah, boy, your book really helped me," he said.
It's helped a lot of people.
The Great End Time Distraction. You have a couple chapters in that book. And I say that in all humility, too. There's no book anywhere like that.
I don't think anybody's addressed it like you're saying. Honestly, I think we probably are the only ones that's going to address these issues from a realistic Bible as well as science background understanding.
When I wrote that book and I sent it out to some people, I lost some people out over it, some ministry, radio, and some places that I used to do interviews a lot. They haven't touched me since that book came out. And you know what? I'm sorry about that.
That's all
but
right.
That book had to be written, and the people who threw me under the bus because of that need to read that book, and they need to get right with God.
You know as well as I do, and I have it in the front of almost every one of my booklets, about 2.5 pages explaining some Bible principles to follow in Bible interpretation. And what you're talking about is men, good men, but they will not allow their pride to be set aside to just follow basic Bible interpretation principles.
I told the guy on the phone, of course, we're talking about the book called The Great End Time Distraction. I don't think she has that in queue, so don't worry about it. I don't know if I got one right here or not. I guess not.
I don't think so.
The Great End Time Distraction, I talk about the Genesis 6 controversy. You got a couple chapters that I put in there. Good stuff, by the way, that added to the book. I have a chapter called 4 Irrefutable Facts. They are irrefutable.
But people will not allow the tradition that they have brought into their thinking. Their pride will not allow them to break that chain of tradition to just follow biblical truth.
Yeah. I have had preachers call me. In fact, the guy I was talking to on the phone, he's not a preacher, but he said, you really helped me. He said, I was kind of not sure what to believe about that. I read your book, and he says, that settled it for me. And I told him, I said, if you're a Bible believer and you're willing to read that book and let that book show you from the Bible what the truth is, you'll believe like I did.
Yep.
It's irrefutable.
It is. And but one of the things that we're talking about, things that we're going to do, I'm working on a booklet right now called The Judgment Seat of Christ, because I've discovered the greater majority of the people that are in the meetings where I'm holding do not have even preachers do not have a right understanding of the judgment seat of Christ.
And I think the 7 feasts of the Lord clears that up.
Yes.
An understanding of what the 7 feasts are.
Yep.
We're going to a wedding. At the beginning of the marriage supper, the groom is going to brag on. That's why she comes in. She's all beautiful. She's got the white dress. And it's all about her, by the way. The wedding's about the bride. Nobody comes to see the groom. They come to see the bride.
That's right.
And you brag on the bride. Isn't that what the judgment seat's about?
The judgment seat of Christ is an awards ceremony. And
there'll not be one sin brought up, will there?
no. And I'm right. I've got several other booklets that I'm going to work on this year, as well as one major book that I've been working on for years, and hopefully get back to it.
How about the walk through time? Is that ever going to be is there going to be any print with that anytime?
I'm going to put some materials together. Well, all the PowerPoints will be put together.
Now, will that be for like a teacher, or will that be for a common person?
Well, probably for Bible studies.
Yeah.
A common person could take it, or any ordinary person could take it, but it'll be designed
to be
kind of
used
like
in
my
a teaching ministry.
Kind of like my Matthew 13, the parables of Matthew 13. It's designed, anybody can pick it up and learn from, but it's basically designed to be a Bible study group, Sunday school group, or Wednesday night, Sunday night series. Pastors have used it.
Now, real quick, Doc, did you have anything else? Did you write anything down about where we're headed this year, Prophecy in the Spotlight?
Yeah. I was going to show everybody. That's what I wrote down. And I've signed it at the bottom. I'm going to sign it at the bottom. I've taught for years, surrender is the one thing that Christianity seldom has. We are willing to do whatever as long as we can say this much, this long, this deep. Surrender is signing a blank piece of paper and saying, Lord, whatever you fill it in, that's it. I'm 75. My health's not as good as by any means as what I'd love for it to be. My wife's health's not good. So this year, I'm starting out with a blank page. I don't have any real meetings scheduled on purpose. I'm not sure whether I want to do much traveling. I'm backing away because of of health reasons right now, I'm not traveling as much. So I'm going to spend most of my time writing and working with you in this ministry here.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting way to look at it. That
If the-
blank piece of paper.
Yep.
God, I'm here to do whatever you want
I'll
me to
be
do.
here, and even over the last 12 years and all the traveling, many years I was gone 45, at least 40 weeks out of every year. Sometimes only be home for 2 days out of 22 days. And I just can't do it anymore. Physically, I can't do it.
Well, I had that leads me to my final thing I wrote down here, because I'm going on 64, so I don't have that blank page yet. I'm writing stuff down. Prophecy conferences.
Yes.
I
would probably
this year-
I would go out on my blank page. I would go out with you on a meeting or even maybe a certain meeting, but I'm not scheduling them like I used to.
I talked to a preacher on the way here, and I gave him first shot. I said, here's what I want Doc and I to do this year. I'd like to have at least 4 big multi-day meetings where you and I are both there. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we can't bring someone else in, but it's mainly going to be you and I. And I'd like to do at least 4 in 2024.
I'd be willing to do that, or a half a dozen, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if more come in and you can handle it, we'll do more. Obviously, we both preach and we both do other things on the side as well. And I mean, if you couldn't make one and I could, or vice versa. But I would love to get to schedule at least 4 that we can advertise, promote, get people around the country to fly in or drive in
Well,
and be a part of it.
I've been praying the Lord would open up that avenue for us.
Because I believe we're out of time.
Yep.
And not only do I want to wake up some people in that church that we go to, but I want preachers to come to
Yes.
that meeting.
I
and
agree.
we've got to reach these preachers.
Yes.
And so that's really a burden on my mind. Maybe, folks, you can help us with that. If you're a pastor, or if you're in a good church and you've got a pastor that you think would be interested in something like that, give us a shout. Contact us. And I'm not saying we'll schedule your church, but we will consider it. We'll pray about it. We'll look at it. Doc and I will talk about it. And we want to be a blessing. And we want to encourage and get people to see just where we are on God's time clock.
Amen.
Doc, real quick, what must we do to go to heaven?
Well, the most important thing, number one, you got to realize you're born a sinner headed to hell. It's not God's fault. But in God's love, He sent His Son to Calvary's cross. And Jesus, in His love, shed His blood on Calvary's cross for the redemption of your soul. All you need to do is believe what Jesus did for you and call on the Lord, and He will be your Savior.
Amen.
It's that simple.
And until then, keep your eyes on them skies.